Buying a home is not like buying a car, not even close. And this is one of the biggest misconceptions I see with buyers. They think, I'll have good credit, I'll get approved. And while that sounds right, that's not how mortgages work at all. Because getting approved is one thing. Knowing exactly what actually works for you is something that is totally different. If we haven't met yet, my name is Ivan Cano. I'm a realtor and mortgage loan originator, so I get to see both sides of the process, what happens out in the field with buyers and what happens behind the scenes with financing. And what I've noticed is this: a lot of confusion doesn't come from the market, it comes from how people think the process actually works. And recently I had a conversation that really highlighted that. I had someone call me off of one of my listing signs, and that home happened to already be under contract, but that's besides the point. But we started talking about buying a home, and right away she said, I have good credit, I know I'll get approved. And I said, that's great, but approved for how much? Because that's the real question. And that was what caused a pause, because most people don't think in terms of ranges, they think in terms of approval or no approval, simply as a yes or no. So I explained, before we even look at homes, we need to know your numbers, because that is going to determine what price range actually makes sense, what your monthly payment is going to look like, and what the realistic payment is for your current situation. But she kept coming back to the same thing. I'll have good credit, I'll be fine. And that's when it clicked for me. She was thinking about this like buying a car. And honestly, the way a lot of people think about getting approved, it makes sense, because most people are used to buying cars. And when you buy a car, what's the first thing they check? Your credit. And if your credit is solid, the process is usually pretty straightforward. They'll run your credit, give you an approval, show you some options, and in many cases, you're driving off the lot the same day. It's fast, it's simple, and it feels easy. I'll give you a real world example. Back in 2023, I actually bought my car out of town. I found out exactly what I was looking for, the spec, the color, everything. Tried calling the dealership a few times, and I couldn't get through to anyone. So I did things a little different. I searched online and found one of their sales guys who posted a social media post, reached out directly, we connected, and gave him the deal, gave him the numbers, and I literally just said, if you can make this deal happen, I'll buy a one-way ticket right now. Next morning, I'm on a plane. While I'm flying out, they run my credit, and I land. I meet the salesperson, and the first thing he says is, you weren't lying about your credit. The car was already prepped. I went into finance, looked at the numbers, signed, and drove off. The whole process, fast, simple, and heavily based on credit. There wasn't a deep breakdown of income versus obligations, long-term affordability, or how the payment fits into your overall financial picture. It was more like, you're approved, here are your options. And again, that works for cars because it's a much smaller financial decision. But when you're talking about buying a home, it's completely different. Now you're dealing with a much larger purchase for one, and a much longer commitment, and a monthly payment that has to make sense for your life long term. So the process has to be different. And that's where most people get tripped up, because they try to apply the same kind of logic or thinking to something that works completely different. When it comes to buying a home, credit is just one piece of the puzzle. And honestly, it's not even the biggest one, because lenders are really looking at your income, your debts, your monthly obligations, and how all of that fits together. Let me explain what I mean by that, because this is where people get tripped up. You can have great credit, an awesome credit score, but if your monthly obligations are already high, that limits what you can actually afford. Or you might have great credit, but your income doesn't support the type of payment that you're aiming for. So again, it's not just about getting approved, it's about what the approval actually looks like. Let's make this real for a second, because this is where it really starts to click. Let's say two buyers have great credit, both in the 700s. On paper, They look very similar, right? But one buyer makes, let's say, $6,000 a month, has a $500 car payment, maybe a small credit card balance. The other buyer makes the same income, $6,000, but has higher monthly obligation and maybe multiple debts or car payments. Those two buyers are not qualifying for the same payment. And since affordability price point is based on payment, they're not shopping for the same homes. And this is where people get caught off guard because they assume if my credit is good, I should qualify for this. But that's not how it works. So what happens when you skip this step? When you don't actually run the numbers first, you start looking at homes based on assumptions. You start building expectations around a price range that may not even fit your current situation. And then one of two things happen. Either you get frustrated because nothing works, or worse, you find something you love, you get emotionally attached, and then you find out those numbers don't quite line up. And that's one of the hardest moments for buyers because it's now not just a financial decision, it's an emotional one. So here's the shift that I want you to make. Don't start with credit. Don't start with homes. Start with your numbers. And when I say numbers, I mean what your actual payment looks like, what fits comfortably in your budget, and what makes sense long term. Because once you have that, everything else becomes easier. Your search becomes more focused, your expectations are aligned, and you stay in control of the process. If you're thinking about buying a home and you want to understand what your numbers actually look like, I can walk you through it step by step. We will look at your income, your debts, your payment range, and figure out what actually works for you. No pressure, no obligation, just clarity. Check the links in the description and we'll go through it together. Because buying a home isn't about getting approved, it's about making a decision that actually works for your life.